Hello, YouTube. My name is Alan, and it's that time once again. Let's talk some metal. For this episode, we're going to be getting into some old, obscure new wave of British heavy metal singles. It's something I've done a lot of on this channel, but haven't done it as frequently, it feels like, in recent months. So yeah, I'm putting together a couple of these videos to splice into upcoming weeks. You know the drill. I've picked three singles out of the giant bin of old singles. I'll play a clip from each of them and talk a little bit about each one as we go. No need to drag it out. Let's jump in with tonight's first entry. It's by a band called Dragonfly, which released the Dragonfly EP, which is a four-tracker, back in 1980. I want to check out a little bit of the song Silent Nights, get a feel for what Dragonfly sounded like. So here you go with a clip from Silent Nights. And as usual, if the intro drags out, I'll skip ahead so you can hear more of the song. All right, so there's a bit of Dragonfly's Silent Nights. Like the intro to it a lot, kind of a heavy, moody sounding, rumbly opening. They obviously pick up the pace there a bit in the solo after the chorus. Like the chorus to that one too. Yeah, it's a good little EP with four tracks. Silent Nights is the standout on side one. Spacebound on side two is kind of a little bit of a slower, more epic track, but still pretty cool also. So yeah, you get multiple songs on here that are pretty good. Now, if you were watching the screen while the clip was playing, you would have noticed that the labels are completely blank. A lot of times when you see something like this, it kind of sets off the bootleg alarm in the back of your mind. But this is indeed what the single's supposed to look like. They did not press up any labels to put on it, so it's just plain white labels on each side. This is the only thing that Dragonfly released. One of the tracks, I think it is Silent Nights, was featured on Volume 4 in the New Wave of British Heavy Metal CD series from back in the 1990s. And yeah, just a solid, straightforward EP. Shame the band didn't do anything else. There were a couple of other bands that have used the Dragonfly name. One of them, though, is like a 70s UK band. And then there's another band I don't know anything about, but the name will pop up on some other bands. So you can't just click anything that says Dragonfly. I want to say on Discogs, this is something like Dragonfly number 14. Um, if you've ever typed generic band names into Discogs, you know what a pain it can be to find the particular band you're looking for. But type in Dragonfly Silent Nights, and it'll take you to it pretty quickly. The Silent Nights EP has always been one of those kind of mid-tier rarities. It's not up there with the long-lost mythical titles from the new wave of British heavy metal, but it's never been the easiest thing to find either. So just a cool EP. Doesn't get much attention. The band did get the anthology treatment from, I believe it's High Roller Records. Let's confirm that before we move on. Yeah, just in 2023. High Roller did a Silent Nights anthology for Dragonfly that includes the EP and also a lot of demo tracks. The band had recorded some demo material around that same time frame, 1980. The band got together in the early 70s and lasted for just a few years. So you don't have to track down the original 7-inch. Pick up the recent High Roller anthology and you'll have more Dragonfly material than I do. All right, moving on to our second entry for the night. This is an old favorite among many new wave of British heavy metal fans. It's a band called ARC, A-R-C, and The single is titled War of the Ring. And as you can see from the picture sleeve here, we got some Tolkien going on. Oh, do we have some Tolkien going on here for sure? But before we break down the picture sleeve, let's do check out a clip from Ark's War of the Ring. All right, so yeah, several things stand out about the War of the Ring by Ark. First off, even from just, the very first few notes, this is a very heavy single. They've got a really heavy, kind of fuzzed out, doomy guitar tone. It actually reminds me in passing of Saint Vitus in terms of, that overall guitar sound. So yeah, a really, really heavy number by new wave of British heavy metal standards. Second thing that will stand out are those vocals. He goes for some pretty high shrill notes there, making it more or less. Not a bad vocal performance, but yeah, again, pretty characteristic. So you put all that together with the Tolkien lyrics and the Tolkien-inspired picture sleeve, which isn't just a, monochrome picture sleeve. There's actually a little bit of red added to it. And you have, a really striking package overall. I mean, you've got, looks like you have the big spider Shelob there and the ring and, elvish script back here. This might be the inscription from the ring. My Sindarin's a little rusty, so I can't translate it off the top of my head. But yeah, kind of a really odd one for the new wave of British heavy metal. Not a lot of bands focused on fantasy themes that early on. It was a lot more, beer drinkers and Hellraisers kind of stuff. So a very unusual single. It's not the band's first single. This one came out in 1981, but they had made a single the year earlier in 1980. That one did not come with a picture sleeve, and the music's a little more pedestrian and straightforward than this one. It's got a funny title. The A side is Tribute to, I'm checking the name here. Yeah, it's called A Tribute to Mike Halewood, who apparently was a professional motorcyclist. That's all I know. Mike Haywood had something to do with motorcycles. He wasn't dead at the time the single was released, though. Apparently, he died about a year later. So, you know everything I know about Mike Haywood now. If you know more, feel free to leave a comment down below and fill folks in. So, yeah, War of the Ring is their second and last 7-inch and has, yeah, a markedly heavier, doomier kind of sound to it than the debut single did. Now, you may have also noticed when I was showing the record during the clip, the flip side has the really weird title of Ice Cream Theme. That's about as far from War of the Ring as you can get in terms of a song title. So what's going on there? It is still a reasonably heavy number. It does have a much more laid back vibe. It doesn't have that anthemic kind of marching, super heavy sound that is on War of the Ring. Same overall guitar approach, but it just had the song overall has a little bit more of a laid back feeling to it. It's not a bad track. War of the Ring is definitely the winner out of the two, however. So yeah, this was, as you saw, released on Slipped Disc Records. A lot of folks consider it, one of like, the, best of the best out of the new wave of British heavy metal singles. I do like the single a lot. It's again very unique. Doesn't sound really like anybody else going at the time. I really wonder if these guys somehow had the Tyrant demo from 1979 before Tyrant changed their name to Saint Vitus, because the sound is really, really striking. But however it is, it's a cool single. I wouldn't list it in my like top five new wave of British heavy metal singles in terms of favorites, but it is a very cool one. Doesn't show up all that often. Picture sleeve is of course very eye-catching. All right, we got one last one to talk about tonight. I thought I'd covered this single in a previous video, but flipping through my notes, I don't see that I had it ever kind of checked off the list. Yes, at this point, I have a list where I try to, keep tabs on what records and singles I have and have not talked about in videos. I've done about 250 of these at this point. It's a little hard to remember them all off the top of my head. This one's not checked off, so if I've done it before, it slips through the cracks and it gets a second crack at things. It's a single by the band Aurora. The tracks are called If I Really Knew Her and I'll Be Your Fantasy. And let's check out a clip of Aurora before we talk about them a little bit. This will be part of the song If I Really Knew Her. All right, so yeah, real cracking number from Aurora there. Very high energy tune, great little guitar hook to it. Really well produced single. Some people will complain about a lot of these older new wave of British heavy metal records being kind of underproduced, and a lot of times they were. The band was, scraping together whatever money they could. Didn't exactly have state-of-the-art studios available to them. But the Aurora single has always sounded really, really bright, really strong sound production. So whoever turned the knobs for that particular session did a fantastic job of it. So Aurora, this band grew out of the ashes of A to Z. A to Z had some momentum there for a while. They got a full album out on a major, but it was a live album. You kind of got the feeling that uh, somehow the label signed them and then didn't really give them a whole lot of support by only doing a live album instead of a studio recording. But yeah, the A to Z material is really good. But the band split. The vocalist Gary moved on to Titan, and some of the other members formed Aurora. The Aurora material is pretty easy to characterize. They're really going for that early 80s Thin Lizzy sound, the Chinatown Renegade kind of vibes, and doing a pretty nice job of it. Both songs on that one are really, really good. The band lasted an incredibly short period of time, somewhere around like late 82 into 83. The single is listed as an 82 release. Um, but by the time it was even getting a little bit of review in some of the local musical press in the UK, the band had already kind of dissolved. So yeah, it's always kind of weird when a band breaks up when they're in the middle of releasing a record. Because it's like, then here's the record. Cool. Can we interview you guys? Nope, we don't exist anymore. Cool. Well, so much for that. It's kind of strange that, yeah, they didn't stick it out a little bit longer just to see if the record went over or not. I guess, the record didn't go over. It was probably a very limited release. If you look it up in Malcolm Macmillan's New Wave of British Heavy Metal Encyclopedia, it's mentioned as a very, very scarce item that sells for a pretty high price. Over the years, however, that one has turned up pretty frequently. So I don't know if band members were contacted and they still had some copies or something similar occurred. But today, the Aurora single is not considered a real high dollar item anymore. You could probably get it, I would guess 40 or 50 bucks would be more than enough to get a copy at this point. I could be wrong. I don't track prices on every single record all the time. But nevertheless, it's a fantastic single. It probably gets a little overlooked because it was never issued with a picture sleeve. And when it comes to singles, collectors, we do love our picture sleeves. We want big spiders and elven rings and shit like that, to look at while we listen to the songs. Whereas with this, yeah, there's just nothing else there. But regardless of whether it has a picture sleeve or not, both songs really high quality, high energy type numbers. Uh, One that I like quite a bit and glad I stumbled into an affordable copy of it a long time ago. So, those are tonight's entries. We've got a little bit of everything. The high energy of Arc, the proto doom rumblings of, oh, sorry, yeah, the high energy of Aurora, the proto doom rumblings of Arc, and the sort of moody, more stripped down sounds of Dragonfly. So let's talk metal in the comments down below. Any of those catch your fancy? Has anybody checked out that Dragonfly anthology from High Roller? If so, how does the unreleased material sound? Yeah, I just don't run out and buy a ton of those things. I have bought a lot of such collections in the past. Very often you get a bunch of half-finished songs with shit sound quality that, to be honest, I just don't need to pay money to hear. I just end up playing the original single or EP or whatever anyway, and all those extra tracks don't sound very good, and they aren't even finished, and they're very lo-fi. But there are exceptions to that too. So if anyone's familiar with the Dragonfly compilation, if it sounds great and has a lot of cool unearthed songs, please leave a comment down below and let me get it on my radar to check out sometime. That's going to do it for this recording. So hope you enjoyed these. Everyone take care. And until next time, as always, keep banging your head.